And about that time, I can't remember how much I weighed, but it had to be about 120 pounds. So it looks like I was just straight out of a concentration camp. Hey, what's up guys? It's JC here, and today I want to talk about Pectus excavatum. It is kind of a rare deformity that people have, but it's something that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. First, I'm going to speak about what Pectus excavatum is and my own personal history and dealings with the mental, the physical, and everything else that you could be dealing with if you have Pectus excavatum. There's also another condition called Pectus concavium, but I'm not going to speak about that. That's basically the opposite effect, where your sternum doesn't grow in, but instead it grows out. So first of all, what is it? This is a brief overview of what Pectus excavatum is. It is a condition which the breastbone is sunken into the chest, and the sunken breastbone can often be seen shortly after birth. If the breastbone sinks a lot over time, the center of the chest maybe look like it is scooped out. There's so many jokes when it comes to it looks like you could just eat cereal out of my chest that I've faced with all the years. It's still pretty funny, no, nevertheless, I don't take offense to it at all. This change may leave a deep dent or dip, but many people with this condition just have a slight dip in the breastbone. For myself, it is not a very heavy sunken in chest. Probably you can see by these photos here that I took off a couple years ago. But some other people have a much more difficult time, and we'll talk about what the actual effects of it can be. One interesting thing about Pectus excavatum is that it only really affects about 1 in every 250 people. There's different numbers that you can choose off of that. Some say off to 1 in 400, but it's not super common. So there are a few different symptoms that you can face when you have Pectus excavatum. For example, you might have a fast beating heart, you might have lots of chest pain, fluttering, or pounding heart. Those typically sometimes can happen with myself. It's not usually very often, but for me it's more of a cosmetic thing, and it's more of a mental game for me rather than a physical game, which some other people struggle with that massively. So there is a possible cause for this, which is probably very heavily affected by genetics, is with the cartilage that connects to the breastbone to the ribs may develop in a irregular way, which then causes the ribs to be pulled down. Nobody actually really knows what fully causes it. However, there is a strong genetic link that is caused to it. For example, my father, he had Pectus excavatum, and I'm pretty sure my grandfather had Pectus excavatum. However, you have to usually treat it when you're around a teenager age if you want to have a really good effect on it. Otherwise, obviously your bones are much more set in stone for the rest of your life. Otherwise, you have to use much more invasive surgeries. There are a couple different options that you can take if you choose to take the route of surgery. However, typically, this is something I learned when I was young, if the Pectus excavatum is not severe enough, insurance will not pay for it, so you have to pay for the surgery out of pocket, which is something I come on another thing, which is for a different video about insurance companies and all that. So the procedures that you can take are the minimally invasive Nuss procedure or the open Radovich procedure. Usually these are procedures that they basically stick a bar inside of your chest to help pull everything out. It's never crossed my mind that I actually wanted to do something like that. Usually if I ever try to do something, I want to do it in a way that is not usually invasive and doesn't require medical action. There was something else interesting about Pectus that I didn't realize when I was doing research for this video, is that I found this one study that actually said women are more likely to have Pectus excavatum than men, but men usually have a much more deformed chest looking, so it is easier to diagnose it. They had to use radiology, I believe it was CT scans, I have to go back and look at the study right now, to actually find the Pectus excavatum and kind of map it out. Obviously women's bodies are a bit different than men's, so it's a bit more difficult to actually see it via the eye test. So first I want to get into my own personal history with Pectus excavatum and what I deal with on a day-to-day basis. Like I said, my own Pectus excavatum is not very severe, so the actual effects that I deal with aren't that major. However, other people have different scenarios. So now I want to actually go ahead and show you on video what Pectus excavatum can look like. So let me go ahead and get that. you can see the sunken in chest, and then how basically on my own sternum, it's kind of pushed down to the right, because I believe the connective tissue is over here on this side of my chest. When I really flex my chest, let me see if I can really show it here. You can see that right now I'm kind of more of like a rest. If I flex it like this is just me pushing my chest all the way out. This part of my chest, the left side of my chest, goes back, and this part of my chest goes forward. It's because of the problems of the connective tissue, and there's whole different difficulties when it comes to posture and everything else that pectus causes. And I prefer not to do the rest of this video shirtless. So what is it like actually living with Pectus excavatum? It is honestly not that bad. Typically, my breathing is very rarely ever affected. The only times that my breathing is ever really affected is when I don't exercise for about a month or two. That's pretty much the only reason why, and probably it's because of my lungs or my cardio is not very good. There are some rare times where I will have very heavy heart palpitations, but that's usually because I've had way too much coffee or I've been trying to exercise and try to put out my chest further. Those are usually the only real major reasons why physically there are any problems with it. But that doesn't even address the mental problems that comes with it. I used to struggle with Pectus excavatum mentally much more when I was much younger, when I was a teenager in high school, much rather than it affects me now. For example, I was a long distance runner, and there were many times during the summer I would love to take my shirt off, but hey, I don't want to look like a Holocaust victim to people as I'm running by. Because I was also extremely skinny, because I'm 6'1". And about that time, I can't remember how much I weighed, but it had to be about 120 pounds. So it looks like I was just straight out of a concentration camp. Because of the general rib flare that it causes, especially right around your skin, if you don't have a decent amount of weight or some fat on you, it just looks terrible and much worse than it actually is. But however, as I've gotten older, I've just stopped caring about it so much. There's different exercises that I've been trying to do to actually try to push the pectus back, but not a lot of stuff actually really fully affects it, because you really probably need surgery to fix an actual rib problem rather than just trying to do a couple exercises. I'm gonna go ahead and show you a couple different things that I've tried in the past, which honestly, I'm just terrible at being consistent. One thing that you can use is some kind of band or some kind of rope to kind of help push your chest out and kind of stretch out your rib cage. For example, I kind of just put this behind my back, and then I take this around. Obviously, you really can't see this very well, but let me see if I can pull this up. And then you just kind of open it up like this, because this is just kind of forcing yourself to fully push everything out, and you pretty much flex everything, flex your abs, flex your chest, flex your shoulders, just try to get as a good posture that you can do. The second thing is another interesting thing, which I didn't think about until about a year ago, but however, I've been terribly inconsistent with using this. So I think I still need to use this. I believe the directions about 2 more years, but it's basically a suction cup. So this is the thing. It is a suction cup. You could order these off of Amazon and whatnot. So the main thing you do is you just hook this up right in the middle here. This is the spot where pretty much where your pectus is at its worst, and you just stick it around it. And then there's a little PSI meter on here, and then you just squeeze this up to like 5 PSI, and then over time you use it, but there's directions on how to use it. I haven't seen much out of this quite yet, but maybe I just need to continue to use this for longer, and I'll create an update video if there's anything different once I use this more consistently. So those are just a few things about Pectus excavatum, its history, my own personal history, how I personally tried treating it. At some point I may try surgery for it, but at this point I don't see a major issue with doing it. My cardio is pretty good, my strength is pretty good, and it doesn't really affect much else other than it just being something mental that I could get fixed, but I don't really need to fix it anymore because my mental has kind of moved on past that. At one point, I believe I did have a bit more of a struggle. If there's anyone out there who has Pectus excavatum and is afraid to go to the gym, start working out, or doing anything else to try to better yourself, don't be afraid of that. I am a example and a testament to that. I've been going to the same gym for about 2-3 years, and I typically go to the sauna usually I would say about half out of the week when I go to the gym to do strength training, and no one has ever, and I mean ever, commented on my Pectus excavatum. No one ever. Nobody cares. They're just trying to do their own thing. So if you have a fear that you're going to be judged, people are not going to come up and talk to you and be like, hey, why's your chest like that? Are you going to eat cereal out of it? Nobody does that. So you don't have to worry about that actually happening to you, unless, you know, maybe just something has happened to me and it's never happened. I hope you all have enjoyed this video, and if any of you have Pectus Excavatum, your stories, or whatever you'd like to comment about, feel free to throw something down in the comments below. And if you could like and comment and subscribe, that'd be fantastic. You'd really help the channel. Since this is my first video on this channel, I would really appreciate that. And I hope you all have a blessed day, and Godspeed.